Off the Record with the Indiana 250 is presented by Prolific. When what worked stops working, I point purpose-driven leaders to Prolific, the growth firm. They turn plans into results with full-service marketing and strategy focused on outcomes, not vanity metrics. Head to prolifichq.com to learn more.
And the reality is, if you want to lead people, they have to trust you. And the only way they're going to trust you is if you're your authentic self. And if you do that and people see that, they're willing to invest in you. But if you try to be somebody you're not, or try to, fit your personality into a role that doesn't work, you'll be miserable. They'll be frustrated. So you just got to be you.
Welcome to Off the Record, a podcast featuring leaders on IBJ Media's Indiana 250 list. I'm Nate Feltman, CEO of IBJ Media, which publishes the Indiana 250, a list of the most influential business people in Indiana. Welcome to Off the Record, a podcast featuring leaders on IBJ Media's Indiana 250 list. I'm Nate Feltman, CEO of IBJ Media, which publishes the Indiana 250, a list of the most influential business people in the state. Today, I'm joined by Ryan Vaughn, President and General Counsel of Exos, a locally based family of companies that provide cybersecurity, talent, and IT solutions to clients across the country. Ryan is an Indy native who's built an impressive, diverse resume in his hometown since graduating from Wabash College and the IU McKinney School of Law. Ryan started his legal career in the Marion County Prosecutor's Office before joining the law firm Barnes & Thornburg, where he worked as an associate in the Government Affairs Group before becoming a partner. Along the way, he got into government and politics. In 2007, at the age of 31, he became one of the youngest people ever elected to the Indianapolis City-County Council, a job he held while maintaining his day job at the law firm. He also served as City-County Council president. In 2012, he served on the city's Super Bowl host committee, which was a precursor to what would become a career at the center of the city's sports movement. But he first left Barnes & Thornburg to work as the chief of staff for Mayor Greg Ballard, and he served as the mayor's representative on the committee that put together Indy's bid to host the 2021 Final Four. Ryan's involvement with the Super Bowl and the Final Four bid led to his next high-profile assignment, president of the Indiana Sports Corp, the organization at the heart of the city's sports movement. During Ryan's tenure at the Sports Corp, Indy won bids to host the NBA All-Star Game, multiple Big Ten championships, the College Football Playoffs National Championship, and a number of NCAA championships. In 2021, it was Ryan's team that in short order pulled off the seemingly impossible feat of Indy hosting the entire NCAA men's basketball tournament during the COVID pandemic. It wasn't long after the tournament, Ryan left sports behind as his day job. In 2022, he joined Exos, formerly Sandy Solutions, as an owner and executive and helped guide the tech company through a period of rapid growth. Exos was named by the Indiana Chamber of Commerce as one of the top places to work in Indiana in 2025 and 2026. Ryan's been honored as a Sagamore of the Wabash, one of the state's highest honors, and recognition of his leadership, service, and commitment to strengthening the community. Ryan, welcome to the Indiana 250 podcast, Off the Record. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Hey, always great to be with you. Thanks for that overly kind introduction.
Well, it's absolutely accurate and well-deserved, and you've had an incredibly diverse career, as I described, in law, in politics, sports, and now in business. With your time on the council and your time at Sports Corp, you really got into really what drives the city, how the city works, and all that's important to growing the city. But I'm interested, I always start out kind of at the beginning, when you were young and growing up in Indianapolis, as I mentioned. Were you interested in these kinds of activities back then, or did these things come later?
Oh, I had no idea what my life was going to look like, to be honest with you. I grew up off of West 10th Street, Ben Davis High School kid. First person in my family to really go to college and graduate. And so I was just trying to kind of navigate life. I knew I was really interested in, from advice from my mother, who said I like to argue a lot.
Yeah.
That one day I might want to be a lawyer, but wasn't real clear what that path looked like to me early on. But Wabash was really transformative for me, really kind of solidified. I wanted to chase that path. And it also just instilled to me that it was my responsibility to find a way to give back over time.
Yeah. Well, you and I share that in common, that my parents told me I should think about law based on how argumentative I could be too. So I can identify there. So you, as you said, you end up going to Wabash and then to law school at the McKinney Law School. When you were at Wabash, did you start to formulate some ideas, and what drove you to think about law might be the next thing following graduation?
Yeah, I really wanted to be a litigator. I think a lot of undergrads think about, oh, they want to go to law school, they want to be a lawyer, but they don't really think about there's a lot of different types of lawyers, right?
Right.
I was a rhetoric major at Wabash, speech and philosophy and psychology minors, and so for me, that was the natural path. Law school. The goal was, came from a modest background. The goal was to be the guy I saw on TV, like pounding on tables and yelling at juries, and hopping in my Porsche to go get on my private plane and fly away.
A Tom Cruise type film of some sort.
That was the vision. Ended up running a tech company naturally, right? So, that time really formed it. And then when I was at law school, there was an opportunity. There's a program where if you've completed a certain number of courses, you can actually clerk at the prosecutor's office and actually practice law while you're still in law school. And so I was pretty narrowly focused on that litigation path.
So was there ever a doubt that you would stay in Indy? Was there any part of you, I don't know if you ever did any study abroad or if you, did anything like that elsewhere outside of the state, but were you always confident and just decided early on that, you were going to stay in your hometown, you were going to, build your career, build your life here versus thinking about going somewhere else? A lot of kids go to, from Wabash will go all over the place, right? They'll go to Chicago, they'll go elsewhere. Sure. But how did you make that decision?
Yeah, actually, one of my regrets at Wabash is that I never studied abroad. I was an athlete, a swimmer. The season never really catered to it. But I think my foundation in Indy really starts with my wife. We met when we were in junior high, 15 years old. I've been together ever since, just celebrated 25-year wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Early July. Thank you very much. She went to Purdue when I was at Wabash, and then she went to go work for Rolls-Royce right out of Purdue. And so we had a family here. We had established a career here, and I was in law school. So it honestly never really occurred to us. I did have some family in Louisville. I signed up to take the Kentucky bar, but never followed through. I was pretty committed to Indy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So I know you just mentioned that during law school, you started doing some work at the prosecutor's office. So my question is, when did thinking about running for office, being involved in politics, when did that start to sink in that could be something that you might be interested in doing?
Yeah, it was actually after I left the prosecutor's office. So I'd never really been engaged in politics or been particularly politically motivated. But when you go to work for a political office, at the time it was actually hired by Scott Newman, but I worked the vast majority of my time there under Carl Brizzi. I got exposed to kind of what that looks like outside of being the prosecutor, what it takes to get there. And so I would, I was a young guy trying to make a name for myself. So I would volunteer to be a poll worker when they needed and stuff like that. But I really wasn't politically inclined. When I left the prosecutor's office, I had kind of a personal revelation. I didn't realize how much how much reward I got from public service, because it was really the first job I had, right from law school to the prosecutor's office. And there was something very fulfilling about helping victims or standing in front of the court, saying here on behalf of the citizens of Indianapolis. And when I left it, I sort of achieved the dream I set out. I was going to be a private litigator. I doubled my salary. I was in this great firm, but there was just something missing. And my wife could tell, I could tell. So I called Carl at the time and I said, hey, I didn't appreciate how much this meant to me. Is there a way I could be helpful? Mm-hmm. Is there something I could do in the office? He said, the answer to that is no, it's illegal and you should know that. But you can help on my campaign if you want. And I said, okay, well, I'll try that. So I worked full time at the firm, and then in the evenings, I would go help him on his campaign, policy, talking points, whatever I could do.
Yeah.
Campaigns end, and his ended successfully. He was reelected. And so I was kind of in a vacuum, and I got lucky. My city councilor at the time resigned with time left on his term. He had a personal and family matters he wanted to take care of. And at the time, it was largely believed that very popular Democrat mayor and Bipartisan, Democrat majority on the council, there wasn't a lot of enthusiasm to become the newest, youngest member of the minority caucus.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I evaluated the opportunity. It was part-time, so I would still get to grow and develop as a lawyer, which was needed. But it gave me that public service outlet. So I ran. I'd like to say it was unanimous. It was unopposed, but took caucus and started serving.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how long was it before you became president of the council after you were put in the seat and elected to the seat?
Yeah, so I had 1 year left as a member of the minority, and I ran for re-election right away. And that's kind of when lightning in a bottle struck politically. Mayor Ballard defeats Mayor Peterson. The council flips to Republican majority. But because most of the Republicans at the time did not believe that was going to happen, most of them choose not to run for re-election. So I went from being the newest, youngest member of the minority to one of the most senior members of the majority very quickly. Year one, as a caucus, I think we all wisely decided that someone who'd actually done this before should do it. So Bob Cockrum, counselor from the South Side, was the president year one, and then I took over after that.
Yeah. I can only imagine that was, you're a young guy. I think you were, 31, 32 at the time? 30?
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of other folks who have, more experience maybe in the city politics and city government. And but here you are, a young guy, and you're the president of the council. How did you navigate just being young, but obviously smart and experienced in other ways? It feels like that must have been an incredible learning experience for you.
It was a huge learning curve, and I was thankful to have a lot of help. And all these jobs you've talked about, I've had a lot of help doing what we do. Again, Mayor Ballard was very new, so the administration itself was pretty young.
Yeah.
But I had great friends and mentors. Joe Loftus was and continues to be a good friend and mentor. Brian Burdick, Bob Grand, guys I practice with.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, on the council, the most helpful people for me when I took over were the Democrat counselors. I worked with some just fantastic people: Jackie Nidus, Joanne Sanders, Mary Moriarty Adams. They would have coffees with me. They would talk to me about why this thing historically operated this way and what we're going to do. And without their willingness to sit across the table and invest in me, it could have gone very differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When you look back at your time on the council, are there one or two things that you feel like working, with the mayor and what you're able to accomplish that stand out in your mind?
Yeah, I think probably the most transformative project, which most people won't appreciate, was the sale of the wastewater utility infrastructure to citizens. We were headed down a very, very bad path, both from an infrastructure standpoint and a cost standpoint, and to have the courage to do that on the mayor's part was very wise. And Citizens is fantastic. It's a public charitable trust, so they have to operate with the interest of Indianapolis. It's not a privately owned, operated trying to capitalize on rate return. That was probably the thing that set us up the most.
Do you remember who the legal counsel for the city
Nate
was?
Something? I can't remember. Yeah,
that was a wonderful, as you say, that was a wonderful accomplishment for the city and for Mayor Ballard, because it really took the water and wastewater entities out of politics, right? And as you suggested, the ratepayer was headed down a really bad path, right? There was a consent decree that was, the federal government came in and said these things have to be fixed and repaired because your quality of water is threatened.
Mm-hmm.
And but to do that as effectively and efficiently, it wasn't going to happen under city-run leadership, most likely. And as you suggest, the charitable trust that Citizens, one of a rare, unique, sort of nonprofit-like entity that has really meant great things for the ratepayers. And I just agree with you. I happen to be involved in it, as you suggested, but from a helping the city from a legal standpoint, and had the pleasure of working with you through that couple of years to get that done. But that is a big one. I think that's a really, really big one for our city. What are there anything else that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, from that, obviously the $600 million investment in infrastructure, which we could stand to do again. That's been a while.
Right.
Really, the development of Mass Ave and kind of up that space and sort of rethinking that and extending it. Oddly enough, the program I think that pulled the highest was the parking meter deal. That was pretty transformative. We had old broken meters that were generating nothing for infrastructure, and we digitized all that and captured a revenue share, which is still supporting that. So it was fun. There were a lot of big deals that we did in that time.
So, everybody knows how divided politically we are as a country today, and it feels like some of that division Indiana avoided for a long time. It feels like now maybe not so much. We're kind of have some of that happening in our state as well. But on a local level, did you feel like, and maybe just from your thoughts today, like on a local level, can some of that divisiveness be divided, or and maybe it was during your period? But how do you think about local versus some of the issues that we face nationally?
Yeah, I think local government is obviously biased, but a much easier place to work because the consequences of your actions are so close to the people, right? I think once you start stepping up at the state level and certainly at the federal level, these policy discussions become very non-tactical, and their impacts are just not clearly seen. And I think most of the people who choose to run for a local elected office do so because they actually want to make a difference, not because they're looking for the next office.
Right.
And obviously not everyone thinks that way, but the vast majority do. And it was certainly true when I was there. I mean, I mentioned already, some of the Democrat counselors that I worked with. Don't get me wrong. There were multiple times where we had only had one vote majority, multiple times where we had a one vote success, but I would say 95% of the time it was 29-0.
Wow.
And we had worked our way through issues before they became time to vote. And so it's I like to believe that's still true today. I'm not as engaged at the local level in Indy. I served with some of those counselors, including President Lewis. But it's certainly a different environment today than it was then.
Well, I want to turn to sports, and of course, you have had a lot of involvement there. I think maybe your first engagement, or really engage on that front, was the Super Bowl host committee, as I talked about in the intro. But of course, then you ended up leading the Sports Corporation, which is so important for our city and state. And as I described, under your watch, we as a state got to host the entire 2021 NCAA tournament during the pandemic. But I'm curious on that unique situation of hosting the entire NCAA tournament. How did that come about? How did that end up happening? What did you do, if you did, to try to help influence that opportunity and put us in a position to pull that off?
Yeah, I mean, it became pretty obvious the year after, or the year that the Final Four was canceled, the tournament was canceled. That is a huge revenue source for the NCAA.
Right.
I mean, that generates probably 90% or plus of their revenue. They were not going to exist unless they were able to have the tournament the next year. And also, we at the Sports Corp, our mission was to use these events to have impact on our community. So if we're not having events, we're not having impact. So we started to think about what was this going to look like. We had to be ready. We knew the conditions of the pandemic were changing literally daily sometimes, but certainly monthly. So,
and remind me, was that the year we were due to host the Final Four, or was that not the case? Do you recall? Is that
it was the? Now I'm checking my own memory.
Yeah,
but I think it was the year we were.
I think it might have been.
Yeah. And so we saw all over the summer, the NBA went into a bubble and played their season in championship or playoffs in the bubble. And so we watched that and we thought, all right, well, college basketball is going to start soon. So we need to figure out, and, how do we start? We were just thinking, how do we play games before we started thinking about how we host a tournament? And we just started working with people in the community. We launched our own testing site, our own protocols. We worked obviously with health advisors in the community, certainly venue operators. And so we devised this bubble, working with hotel operators, the convention center, the city, Visit Indy, to host what's called MTEs, so multi-team tournaments. And then we partnered with a sports agent to go out and shop them, see if we can go find some, and let's just build them from scratch. And so we built a couple of those. We were able to execute. We learned a lot along the way. But I think really doing one game or a series of 4 teams for 2 games is a lot different than doing the whole tournament. But why that work? Well, the reason that work was so important is we started building coalitions of people. A lot of people don't know this, but 4 months, and I mean months, we coordinated a standing 9 a.m. call that probably had 40 people on it.
Wow.
It was every venue in town, Bankers, Lucas, Convention Center. It was health officials. It was chief of staff to the city. It was league operators. So we have all these national governing bodies. They, USA Track and Field, whatever.
Yeah.
And we were just updating each other on protocols. What is your standard different? What does your sport require? What does your conference require? What does your venue require?
Yeah.
And kind of building all this to go so that when we did get the phone call from the NCAA and said, hey, we need to have this tournament, we're going to host it all in one place.
Yeah.
Can you do it? We as a community said, we absolutely can do it.
Yeah. It's amazing. That feels like our community and what you described is kind of built for that type of opportunity. And you as the leader of the Sports Corp, I know, played a huge part in making that happen. So when you look back at that whole experience, what stands out to you now that you've got some time and space away from it?
Yeah. And time and space does help a lot.
Yeah. Because I'm sure I know you didn't sleep a whole lot. So,
no.
But when you look back, what really stands out?
I think that community collaboration I was talking about, I mean, it is a Final Four just in of itself is a logistical event. I mean, it is a top tier federal security. I mean, the whole deal. To do that, and people sometimes forget that leading up to the tournament, we also hosted the Big Ten men's tournament, Big Ten women's tournament, Horizon League men's and women's tournament. So we had all kinds of basketball we were going to play in, of course, the 6 weeks. But the way the leaders from everywhere you needed to come together, and no one said we shouldn't do this. Everyone said, how can we do this safely? And you just kept marching forward, and it was awesome. I mean, it was such a emotional lift for the city too, in a time when everyone was just kind of struggling with the pandemic.
Yeah,
it gave the community a sense of pride that we were able to kind of execute this. And then if you were a basketball lover, my God, it didn't get any better than that.
Right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, more ahead with Ryan Vaughn when we return to Off the Record podcast presented by Prolific. Stay with us. Most organizations hit a point where growth stalls. The message blends in, the site stops converting, the pipeline softens. That's when I tell leaders about Prolific, the growth firm for purpose-driven leaders. Through full-service marketing and strategy, they clarify the story, rebuild your go-to-market, and drive sales. Most importantly, Prolific holds itself accountable to the metrics that matter to you. If you're ready for your next growth stage, learn more about Prolific at prolifichq.com. Welcome back to Off the Record podcast. I'm Nate Feltman, CEO of IBJ Media, and I'm talking with Ryan Vaughn, president of Exos Cyber, and a veteran, of course, of Indy's sports movement. And that's what we were talking about when we took a break. And I just want to take a step back now and just talk about the big picture of sports in Indy. Of course, it's a huge part of our economy. It's a huge part of our reputation. It's what people around the country, around the world, I think have really become to know about Indy, that we can do big things. But give us your perspective, having been in the seat of president of Sports Corp and involved in some of the biggest events in the world here in Indianapolis. Talk a little bit your perspective just on the importance of that space for our city and state.
Yeah, I think a lot of cities struggle with a brand, especially if you're not maybe geographically unique or not industry dominated in particular. But the wisdom of the folks like Ted Boehm and Jim Morris and Frank Sullivan and others to see back in the 70s that sports could be a vehicle for not only impacting the youth in our community, but also economically, and going out and trying to attract what Congress formed, national governing bodies of sport, to choose Indy as the place as their headquarters location, was just so smart and impactful, and really created a focus for leaders in Indy to say we can all rally behind it. I mean, sports typically not politically divisive. It's something that everybody can kind of get behind, and that really just grew. I mean, the AAU was here before it moved to New York. I mean, there's a lot of history there, but I think even they would tell you the moment that really opened the whole community's eyes to the impact of sports was the Pan Am Games in '86, and leaders like Mark Miles being able to go secure that event, bring it here, and then execute it in a way the Pan Am Games have never been executed before or since, by the way. I think the volunteerism that went around it, the community pride, the economic impact, everyone then probably got on board, like, oh, we can really do this. Let's take this to the next level, and it's just continued to grow after, and we're known internationally for hosting major sporting events, and it's a talent attractor for businesses to
For sure.
To say that sports is here. I mean, it's an amenity not many can claim.
Yeah. I was very, very fortunate this year to get a firsthand look. It's really been the last few years, my involvement with the Sports Corp as co-chair of the Final Four. And, I had told the stories, IBJ's been telling the stories about why sports matters, and for all the reasons you just suggested, of course. But to see up close that what the Sports Corp does and the importance to the city, and just how professional of an organization it is, and how just well managed, and how they understand the nuts and bolts of pulling off these kinds of events, because it's not just Final Fours in basketball, of course. It's all of the big events that happen in this city and state, and it's just unbelievable to me that, like, to your point, some of the folks you mentioned in the early days said, let's set this up, and then let's invest in it, and let's grow it, and it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
And I think the stewardship of that along the way has helped it, become even more professional. And you can't talk Indiana Sports Corp without talking about Allison Millington and the tremendous impact that she had, and what the Super Bowl did for the Sports Corp. Certainly Susan Williams, who predated her. Outstanding leader, and then just the board. The board is those founding fathers of our city, really. So.
Yeah, and of course, the volunteerism in this community, and that ability, as you suggest, of sports to be able to, and people get excited and love welcoming visitors to our city, and we have just an amazing culture of volunteerism, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, people probably think 300 people work at the Sports Corp. There's really about 30 and 3,000 volunteers that make it happen.
And I read somewhere that in preparing for this, that I can't remember which event it was, but something I read, and you had mentioned, Sports Corp put up the website, for volunteerism in like literally 90 minutes. All the volunteer slots are full. I mean, that's just amazing.
It happens frequently. And not surprisingly, many of those volunteers volunteer many times. They're almost career volunteers.
So, Ryan, when you think about what we built in the city around sports, there, of course, are a lot of cities that are jealous, envious, and want to copy what Indy has done. And some are doing it. And Nashville's building a stadium. They're pretty open about, and we want to get Final Fours in the future. You got Las Vegas that's built a stadium, of course, has team where they can host Final Fours. I mean, the competition, in other words, is really ramping up. How well positioned do you think we are to maintain what we've had historically? And of course, we want to grow it. What do we do? What do we need to do given the competition?
Yeah, I think we enjoyed an incredible advantage for a long time. Excuse me. Because the thought process in building these venues was to put them out in the suburbs or out of your metropolitan area. We had the wisdom to build ours in our downtown. And so it really had the impact it wanted to. Everyone else saw that. Oklahoma City, I think, during the final pitchers in the final, their mayor wrote a column in their paper about how we just copied this playbook from Indianapolis.
Is that right?
Yeah, and then they beat us, of course.
Not only they copied to beat us. That's not very good.
Yeah. But then you saw, venues started matriculating back, Vegas, Nashville, whatever. So competition continues to grow. People see the value in sports, the value of sports, and franchises continue to grow. Sort of the next evolution of that competition was large-scale public investment in attracting those sports, recognizing their economic value. So Texas adopted a sports bid fund. All of a sudden, they became huge competition. So we can execute the event better. 100% confident of that. Our venue's fine, but if you're also going to give me $1 million, I might go to Texas, right?
Yeah.
So,
right.
So we've done that. I think a few years back, a bid fund. It's going to be increasingly difficult to be competitive. The differentiator is, and will continue to be how we execute. Events that come here usually take a piece of what we do and take it to their next event. Reed to the Final Four started here. The Dribble started here. Fan Fest for some of these things started here. So we've just got to keep innovating and keep those relationships tight and keep investing in our infrastructure. So I believe the people. I mean, we have the right professionals to keep winning. But it is more competitive.
We got to keep up in our game, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and creativity, that's something we're known for. I mean, we do a lot of things and try to be first, like you described.
Right.
So continuing on that front makes a lot of sense. So I want to pivot to more what you're doing today, and more about what made you decide to. You had very, very public facing roles, as we've talked about. You served as, we'll get this a little bit more on this in a minute, but chief of staff to the mayor as well, and then Sports Corp and City-County Council, prosecutor's office, very public service oriented jobs. What made you decide to pivot your career to the business world and join Exos?
Yeah, I was operating on kind of 3-year contracts with Sports Corp, and I was heading into kind of my next negotiation and took a step back to reflect. This is obviously post hosting the tournament, the entire tournament. And I was at an age where I thought, maybe I have one, maybe two more sort of career pivots. And one of the things I hadn't really done is, I obviously practiced law in the private sector, but I had not been in business. And I was, Scott Dorsey was the board chair that hired me at Sports Corp. And I got to know Scott pretty well. And I was just watching how he was operating, and the space he was operating then was high alpha. He had already sold Exact Target. And I just got very curious about sort of high growth, opportunities out of business. And so in my back of my mind, I was thinking that's something I would like to do. But I'd also learned throughout my career that it needs to be with people that I either know or trust. And I wasn't very open about it at all. I think I talked to my wife, obviously, and I think I had talked to Scott a little bit about how does one even get into this field, but not specifically how do I get into this field. And I was just meeting a buddy of mine, Jason, our CEO and founder. We've been friends for 20 years. Before we started the company, we were catching up over a cocktail, and he started talking about his growth journey and just needing more help. And I'm thinking, I know this guy, I trust this guy, this space I want to be in. One thing led to another. And over the course of months, I'm like, you know what? I've done what I came to do at Sports Corp. This is a great opportunity with a good friend. This will be a lot of fun. So let's give it a shot.
Yeah. That's very, very cool. So in the approximate, it's been 4 years or so.
4 years this month. Yep.
So, when you kind of look back over those 4 years, by the way, it's hard to believe it's been 4 years. It feels like you were just reaching out, telling me you're going to do this new gig, and it's 4 years, man. So what stands out in terms of learnings? I just told somebody the other day, we have a lot of things in common. I practiced law for a long time, and but made the jump eventually to business. And it's one thing advising companies. It's another thing when you're inside and you're, signing paychecks and you're managing people and trying to motivate and build a team. Talk about like what stands out that may have been, I don't know if it's a surprise, but you say, yeah, these are some things that, I've learned or that, stand out from the business world you've been in so far.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jason was sort of your classic entrepreneur, right? So the company's 16 years old in December. So it was, 11, 12 years in its journey. But most entrepreneurs chase every opportunity they can, right? And so, like, I've known the guy for 20 years. I've been familiar with his business for the entire time. And then I showed up and then we did like 9 different things I didn't know we did, right? Like,
right.
I also sat at 41 years old at our leadership team meeting around the table and walked the hallways first day and realized that I thought I might be the oldest person in this company, right? And so, like eye-opening day one was, all right, we just need to get a little focused, right? And we could probably stand to add a little gray hair in learning. Our motto became let's hire the people that have been where we want to go. Right. And because, that'll shortcut our mistakes. It'll help us learn.
Mm-hmm.
They'll bring, sort of the wisdom and the calm to the table. And so, as every business owner knows, it's all about building the team and building the culture. It doesn't really matter what industry you're in.
Yeah.
That was true at Sports Corp, it's true at the city. And so that became my focus for the first, year was learn the industry, build the team, build the culture. And I love doing that. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm thrilled with the people that we have on the team now. And I love our culture, and we rebranded, and that's always a fun sort of uplifting experience for the team as well. Moved offices, so it's been a whirlwind of 4 years, but it's been a lot of fun.
And you've experienced quite a bit of growth over that time period too. So I give you all the credit. I don't know about Jason.
Yeah, no, he's been mostly just playing golf. No.
But you've really grown quickly, I think, right? And opened new offices, branched out beyond the state and the city, right? And
we're in 18 states now. From a revenue standpoint, we doubled in 4 years, which is great. We continue we're mostly Midwest, but we've got some people in Austin and Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois. So it's fun to sort of take those risks and put your head down, see if you can make them work. But there's it's any business. There are rough days and there are a lot of great days.
Absolutely, that's what I love about it. Is that there are a lot of great days, but you're right. I mean, the challenges make you stronger, and you figure it out and. You solve those challenges. That's part of what makes business interesting, right?
Right.
So I want to now turn to the really fun stuff. Let's get into politics a little bit. You must miss it after being gone, for a little bit. So, but I really want to turn first to the state of our city. And you've been, obviously involved at a high level, intimately involved with the functioning of our city as chief of staff to Mayor Ballard. Being president of the City-County Council, obviously long tenure in the sports world where you're working with all those folks, the mayor and all the leaders in our city. When you look at the state of our city, how do you think about, where we are and what we really need to do to ensure that we continue to have a vibrant city and we have a vibrant downtown? You mentioned Jim Morris, I was fortunate enough to do this podcast with Jim, a few years back. And, you remember his famous saying, which is, if you don't have a downtown, it was really more of, you can't be a suburb of nothing, but it was really focused on, he was such a champion of downtown and of course sports and growing, helping the most needy, all those things. But I'm talking specifically now about our downtown. Like how do you assess it today, and where do you think we need to improve?
Yeah, I think we're struggling, candidly. I view downtown as kind of a three-legged stool, and it's all about people. It's the people that live here, people that work here, and the people that visit here. And two of those legs are struggling. COVID obviously created a remote work environment and consolidated sort of a footprint of a lot of companies' physical locations, and we're seeing it with fewer office. Fewer people occupying downtown offices. Some of these towers are been turned back to the bank. So that's your work here group. That's not helping sustain restaurants or meetups or whatever. Your visit here group is playing a different game now. So the old saying, you can't be a suburb of nowhere, is true. But what is also true is that our suburbs have done a great job of building their own city identities.
All right.
Carmel, you live in Carmel, you don't have to come downtown for anything unless you want to go to a professional sporting event.
Right.
Same is true of Fishers. Several communities around us have done a wise job of building quality of place, and it's supported. And so when you cap that onto, you don't need to come downtown. So why do you come downtown? And then you've got a kind of a reputational problem in the suburbs for sure. I think with fewer feet walking around the sidewalks, the age of the infrastructure shows. It's not a surprise that crime occurs in vacant houses, and that same philosophy applies to vacant downtowns. And so we're very vibrant when we're hosting an event, and pockets of the city are amazing. Others are really struggling.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that assessment. Actually, the IBJ is going to do another downtown-focused issue and cover all these types of issues. So we'll be coming back to you to get more opinions and thoughts on that front. But so sticking, or maybe pointing a little bit more to the politics side, your former boss, Mayor Ballard, has done some interesting things of late. He's running for Secretary of State, and with a new party called the Lincoln Party, as an independent, and he got enough signatures required to get on the ballot for the Secretary of State's race. When you think about, I won't ask you who's going to win, but maybe I will. But when you think about just the creation of a new party, and this hasn't happened in Indiana for quite some time. Right. It's a pretty high bar to get on the ticket with the number of signatures, but he did it and raised some funds and got some support to do that. Is this good for Indiana?
Yeah, I think it is. To know Greg is to know that, and this is why the man's like a father, certainly a mentor to me. And I think he governed this way when he was mayor. Like, if he deep down feels like something is wrong or headed the right way, and he feels like he can have an impact in it, he's going to do it. I'll be transparent with you. I tried to talk him out of it for 6 months, because politics is nasty, right? It's people you thought were your friends are no longer going to be your friends. People you thought you did a good job as mayor are going to come say you did a terrible job as mayor. And it's going to be rough. And he's been, steadfast from the very beginning. He's like, Ryan, people need more choices. I'm unhappy with the direction of both parties and their extremism. And as a result, we just see less and less voter participation, not more and more. And he believes that the only way to do that is to create a pathway for candidates who don't want to be part of that extreme process, and for voters who, would like some, focus on issues, less on political posturing.
So. As now I'm going to ask you to be a prognosticator.
Yeah.
So you got Bo Bai, who's raised a lot of money, and so we'll have a lot of money, has a lot of money in the bank to spend, probably will raise more or have contributed more. And then you've got a new candidate for the Republicans. Diego was not voted in to continue in that race going forward. You got Max Engling, the new candidate, and then of course you'll have Ballard, and there may be a Libertarian candidate too. I can't recall. I think there is. Chris Spangle says there is.
Yeah,
he would know. So how do you have any sense of how this is going to go? I mean, can you make any early predictions or?
my friends in politics would be laughing at this question because I'm notoriously terrible at predicting who's going to win races. In fact, I didn't even think the mayor was going to win when he won the first time. And so I don't know. I mean, it's clearly a very strong Republican state, and historically, off election year, low turnout.
Right.
Your most motivated voters are probably your most party strident folks. So I would think Max probably has the betting edge. I don't know. You probably can't bet on it. I don't know about that, but I would say underestimate Greg Ballard at your own peril.
Mm-hmm.
That happens quite a lot, and he's super committed to it. And I know he's working hard. I still text with him, and I want him to be successful. But I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be really interesting the post-election analysis on from where did Greg Ballard's votes come? Did they come from Democrats? Did they come from Republicans?
Yeah.
Did we drive new voters? All that, to your point, like there's not really been a situation like this in Indiana for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And so it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out.
So when you left the Sports Corp in 2022, IBJ asked you about the rumors. There were some rumors, and there were some people trying to push you. I think I might have been one of them, actually, to think about running for mayor of Indianapolis. And your response was, quote, "I do not intend to run for office."
It's a very political answer.
That was a very good. But you didn't say never, and you're still a young guy. And a minute ago, I think I caught you said you had to maybe have a couple more pivots in life at your age, and one is you just pivoted to business.
Right.
Is there another pivot maybe one day to politics? Is there any way to convince Ryan Vaughn, who I believe is a great leader and has been a great leader, to think about running for office?
Yeah, I certainly haven't foreclosed it. I think I mentioned to you just talking about being a prosecutor. I get a lot of personal joy out of serving.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm 100% focused on business. I have no particular office or time frame in mind. But if the business grew and I had more freedom and opportunity, depending on what it was, it would be interesting to me because I do get a lot of reward out of it. I enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's hard. One thing I don't love about serving in office is running for office because of all those things I was talking about earlier with the mayor, and it's saying bad things about me or bad articles about me. It doesn't really bother me, but it does impact your family and friends that read these things. They get upset for you.
Right.
And so that part's not fun. But, once you're in a spot where you have an opportunity to make a difference, that's very rewarding.
Yeah. Well, we're all rooting for you to think about it because you would do well. So I always ask our guests on the Indiana 250 podcast about mentors that have been important to you. And I think you've mentioned some already, but maybe reiterate one or two that really stand out in your mind.
Yeah, I think earliest and most impactful was probably my college coach, Gail Pebworth. I went to Wabash, as you mentioned. I was a swimmer. This was a petite woman who's wrangling 50, 18 to 22-year-old men every day. But she did it with such professionalism and care and empathy that she really kind of taught me those traits, and how to be a leader, and what that means. So she was tremendously impactful and foundation of what I've done since then. But yeah, I've worked with just incredible people, different kinds of leaders that have been mentors to me. Scott Dorsey, certainly a very successful guy, but also one of the most approachable, nicest, caring human beings you'll ever run across, right? Very different leader, Rick Fuson. Rick Fuson, very passionate, very direct, very fast, but you knew that it came from a place of caring. And so he was really great. And then, some of the guys I practiced law with, certainly still great friends and mentors, Bob, Brian, Joe Loftus, and then the mayor. I mean, the way the mayor led was inspiring. And the way he led allowed him to accomplish what he did. And so it was very eye-opening. Like, if you approach things in this manner, you're much more likely to be successful.
I couldn't agree more. Those are all wonderful people, but I couldn't agree more. he did a great job of hiring great people and empowering them to do their jobs.
Yeah.
There's another guy that I had the fortune to work for, Mitch Daniels, did the exact same thing. And when you do that, great people, and allow them to go do their jobs, knowing that sometimes you're going to make a mistake here and there, but for the most part, you're going to get great results. So that makes a lot of sense, what you just said. Well, Ryan, we've made it to Off the Record Speed Round, where I ask you some questions, you give me brief answers, and then we'll wrap up. So your favorite movie of all time?
Forrest Gump. That's
a good one. Yeah. Favorite place to vacation?
Oh, favorite city in the world is Florence. That's probably my, I love Florence.
It's a good one.
It's beautiful.
Absolutely. Favorite musical artist?
I mean, I've been to 29 Dave Matthews Band concerts, so it's...
You better go with that one.
Better go with that one.
What's the first thing you do in the morning?
Groan. I wake up, brush my teeth, go walk the dog. Feed and walk the dog. That's my...
walk the dog. That's a good one.
Good morning
I don't
exercise.
Get that one that often, so that's a good one. Title of the last book you read, or one of your more, your favorite books?
I think Boys on the Boat. I don't know if you've read that one about the rowing team in the Berlin Olympics. It's awesome. It's a great read, sports read, historical, great story.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
What food can you not live without?
I eat cheeseburger. My wife hates the fact that I eat like 3 cheeseburgers a week. Yeah, I love them though.
Somebody else just told me that. Earlier this week. Yeah. Our new Secretary of Commerce. Told me that earlier this week. That was his favorite as well.
I'm meeting him at Steak and Shake. We'll have a cheeseburger.
Best advice you ever received?
Ooh, yeah. I guess the best coaching was, if not you, who? Sort of asking that question. If not when, now. Just that focus. Like if you see an issue or problem, an opportunity, don't just acknowledge it. Like go tackle it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the last question, and it's advice for a young person who wants to be a leader. So think of somebody who sees all the things you've done and one day wants to do similar things in our community. What would be your best advice for them?
Yeah, I think, we chatted earlier about different kinds of leader and leadership styles. I think all of that, and the reason that they're great leaders is because they're authentic. Right? They are who they are. I think a lot of young people, when they think I want to be a leader, are looking for like a roadmap. I have to do these 5 things this way and act this way into this time. And the reality is, if you want to lead people, they have to trust you. And the only way they're going to trust you is if you're your authentic self. And if you do that and people see that, they're willing to invest in you. But if you try to be somebody you're not, or try to, fit your personality into a role that doesn't work, you'll be miserable. They'll be frustrated. So you just got to be you.
Yeah. Great advice. Well, Ryan, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for coming on Off the Record 250 podcast. And thank you for being such a great leader for our city and state for so long. And we can't wait until you decide that you might want to jump into the fray again. But in the meantime, I know you're doing great in business, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a joy.
Thanks, Ryan. To learn more about other leaders on IBJ Media's Indiana 250 list, go to indiana250.com and look for a Page 2 feature each week in IBJ. We'll be back with the new Indiana 250 Off the Record conversation soon.